Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey, friends, will you join me for a minute and imagine just how wonderful you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value to others. Well, that's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you it makes a very happy life. And so can my friend, Dr. David Hardy. He's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. But before we bring him on, I'd like to share a poem that we created to thank him for being our guest star today. It's called The Art of Ease, and it goes like this. With insight sharp, heart open wide, David Hardy stands as a trusted guide. From teaching young minds to studying the brain, he's mastered the art of easing life's strain. From athletes to leaders and introverts too, he crafts a path to help them renew. Through functional care and neurology's art, he ignites their potential right from the start. So join us now, let your curiosity grow on something significant. His story will show a life of purpose where wisdom does reign. David Hardy's method heals every brain. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Wow, what an introduction. I've never had a poem about myself read out loud. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, you're welcome. So get us started by telling us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world.
I am big into functional neurology, so I am looking at ways to hack and kind of rewire people's brains and get them better. So I've worked with all these neurologic conditions from concussions to neurodegenerative disorders to post-addiction to neurodevelopmental disorders and peak performance. And I really just want to get the information out there to people because it's like this hidden gem
Hmm.
that it just has so much potential for people that to
So,
improve their lives.
yeah, so the neurology part is studying the brain, correct?
Yes.
Explain the functional part for those who are listening that might not understand this functional medicine movement.
Oh, exactly. And what we're doing is we're looking at things holistically. And kind of how it evolved and started was there's all these miracle type scenarios and anecdotal stories that people have about how they got better in all these different alternative health fields or with exercise or with something they did. And the big thing, though, is to figure out what's going on in the brain so we can have more of these. Because it is something that rewired in the brain for that individual person. And all these therapies work because it stimulate a receptor that fires through a nerve and goes someplace in the brain and makes a change, makes a difference. Well, what if we could hone all these therapies or do a combination or put together a better program to actually get more results? And in cases where people are really struggling with their health and getting back, or whether they're looking for that split second difference in
Mm-hmm.
in their athletic performance or
Mm-hmm.
their cognitive thinking. And it's really about putting those puzzles together. And there was always kind of this saying I've heard out there in the brain world by looking at different online groups with brain injuries. And they were always saying that, yeah, my neurologist knows neurology, but doesn't know therapies.
Mm.
Or the person doing all these therapies knows the
Mm.
therapies, but not the neurology.
Yeah.
And they just found themselves in this loop and going from one person to the next person, hoping to get a change. And it is just so amazing what can be done when you combine the two, the knowledge of the nervous system, because it's a roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the roadmap, then you're more likely to get to where you want to go.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So that's functional Neurology. Now tell us a little bit about your role or involvement in a group called Metal Men.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I'm in this online leadership entrepreneur media group, Metal, and so media, entertainment, technology, arts, and leadership. And it has just been this amazing group of heart-centered men that are looking to improve each other and kind of build community and build each other up and really have that output to develop these skills to get your message across and improve the world.
Very good. All right, David, let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula. It's
All right.
simple, but it's a super powerful formula. It goes like this: power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power you need to get things done, whether it's physically or mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally? In other words, David, what do you do on a regular basis to create all the power you need to take excellent care of yourself and your loved ones and still have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
The power part is the functional neurology bit. Is I'm always looking for ways to improve my own brain function and health. And
Hmm.
whether it's something metabolically, like you mentioned, functional medicine, so looking at ways I can decrease inflammation and improve my energy that way, and or whether it's stimulation based. How do I control the stimulation that is coming into my brain each day?
Hmm.
So we can be kind of a victim to being overstimulated throughout our day. We've got too much sound, too much noise, too much things to do, and we need to find those ways to calm things down. Or the opposite, parts of our brain are going to be sluggish,
Hmm.
and they need that stimulation and that little kick in the butt to get it going.
Hmm.
So, whether we just divide the brain into half and go left brain versus right brain, well, yeah, I can do right brain stimulation by moving the left side of my body, or I can use different electrical stimulation on different nerves. I could use
Hmm.
laser. I could do all these things that I have access to, luckily, and that just builds up my energy and my reserves, but also gets those sluggish parts of my brain nervous system to actually fire and make me feel better and perform better.
Hmm. Excellent. All right, let's discuss my favorite power generating concept. It's called a Kaizen state of mind. And it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I
Yeah,
love it, David, because it's based on mindset, not circumstance.
right.
Kaizening life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today. And it creates this optimistic, gentle, but powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day. So, David, how does Kaizening your life help you increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Yeah, that's how the brain learns is the brain learns through repetition.
Hmm.
And everybody thinks, yo, if I sit down and I study hard, or if I do this thing for like an hour or so, I'm gonna know it. And that doesn't happen. It's all these little things that we repeat over and over that actually develop those connections in the brain. And yeah, the more intense you can make those at the same time is kind of going to be key. So yeah, if it's something that you feel emotionally as well, it's going to stick and wire better. And then if you repeat it, the brain learns it and starts to wire around it. And that's just so key with anything that that we do and how we live our lives.
So, explain to the audience and to me too, I guess, a little bit. If I do, if I do something in a repetitive way, I create a pathway in my brain. So it might be if I've decided to create a new practice of giving, and every day I wake up and I try to think of what can I do to give or to help or to lift somebody up, and so I'm constantly in giving mode, thinking how to give and doing acts of giving. That creates pathways that help me to do that better, quicker, faster. And
Absolutely.
as the converse the same as if I'm in a negative mindset and I'm thinking that I'm being oppressed and life is not fair, and I'm always constantly thinking that way, that also takes me down that path that much easier, kind of like a pathway in the wilderness. You only have it one, if you walk it one time, you can't see it. But if it gets trotted over and over and over again, you have a real legitimate pathway. Is that kind of how the brain works?
That's to the to the point. Absolutely correct. That yeah, neurons that fire together wire together. And
Hmm.
another layer to that too is how we're actually feeling. Because yeah, we can have positive affirmations and everything, but at the same time, if those pathways in the brain that are driving us to feel down, depressed, and sluggish, if they're working too much, the positive affirmations aren't going to work as well.
Hmm.
And we're kind of drawn into that negative side as well. So we've got to work on both because the positive affirmations at the same time get us into gear where we can practice and build up the parts of our nervous system that also excites us. So it's this loop between what we can think and what we can actually feel at the same time and
Hmm.
getting those to come into sync a bit better as well.
Hmm. Interesting. All right, well, let's move on to purpose. That's the second element of the happy formula. And I've discovered or observed really that major life transformations, those really big changes, discoveries of purpose, often come from devastation, sadly. Addictions, abuse, disease, death, disasters, something awful strips a life right to its core, sometimes resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process I've used to discover purpose in my life using inspiration. So, how about you, David? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the God given purpose you were meant to live?
And myself, I've hit a lot of those, and some bigger, some smaller, but it's actually kind of been the repetition of all of those. And I think probably earlier on it was that yeah I struggled neurodevelopmentally. I had a speech problem growing up, learning
Mm,
disabilities, and was socially awkward.
mm,
And at the same time, there was the grit to always, okay, well, let's improve this. And yeah, my parents, of course, are pushing me along the way to get better with the speech and then with the writing and the reading side of things. So it was this probably early on grit to to always kind of improve and get things better. But uh, I also went into education though and coaching because it was a lot of fun to help other
hmm
people out that were struggling or that had the same urge to kind of train and improve whatever condition they were in. And then that fueled me into the clinical side of things. And yeah, initially it was going to be more in athletics and more the kind of aches and pains that athletes go through. And then I found
mm,
this world of neurology and it just connected everything for me. And
mm,
I've had to rely on it as well in entrepreneurship. And when you come out of school, you're not given a job in chiropractic or in functional neurology.
hmm
You've got
hmm
to create it. And there's all sorts of struggle with being an entrepreneur that
Yeah.
is is just dark and dark. And
It,
yeah,
it
if
is
you're not
it
taking
is tough
care of yourself,
running.
it
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah. So let's talk about the grit part of it. You said as a youngster you had these issues. Where did the grit come from? How do you
It was always
can you get grit? It was always there, so it's just kind of wired in your DNA. And then
it was
your
wired, but of course, having to do things and being in those circumstances just fortified it and made it
yeah,
stronger, stronger.
yeah. And then your academic career, you discovered neurology, and so then that was kind of like this thing that was a magical fit in your life, saying, "Whoa, this relates to some of the issues that I was dealing with." Is that so? You're able to connect those with your childhood, and then you got into education and coaching, and you saw a pathway to helping others, and all of that then led into what you're doing today. Is that kind of how you would was just one step by step by step, and all of a sudden the puzzle was looked complete?
I'd like to say it was step by step and linear, but there was nothing linear about something. I've
Yeah.
always kind of been curious, and that also gets me into this mode of yeah, if I'm interested in it, it excites me, and I do it. And that's kind of how my life has gone, is that, oh
Hmm.
yeah, interested in this sport, and oh, I dove full tilt into rugby, and that took me around the world. And then
Mm,
that got me into teaching and coaching the sport. And
mm,
then in teaching, I was teaching behavioral students when I lived in Canada. And then I'm like, well, I think there's more. And then I took time and went and took my chiropractic. And then, oh, wow, there's this area called functional neurology.
mm,
What's that?
mhm,
And it was a mixing pot of some really brilliant doctors that I was able to learn from. So there's Ted Carrick, who was treating Sidney Crosby and all the star NHL players with concussions,
mm,
and I got
mm,
exposed to that world. There was Robert Melillo, who was doing things with autism and neurodevelopmental disorders. There's Datis Garazian doing amazing work in functional medicine. And yeah, I just happened to be kind of in that area and that time where they were all kind of in the same place, where I was taking chiropractic at Life University
mm,
down in Atlanta.
mm.
And then I met more and more amazing doctors, and interned with other ones, shadowed other amazing doctors,
Yeah,
mentored by more and more. And yeah, it was just one thing that struck my curiosity, and it's like, whoa, this is powerful. This is interesting. Like, why isn't there more information on this?
yeah.
I was
So you said something that's really
hungry.
important, and it's a part of it's a major part of my book, Turning Inspiration into Action. That is, first you have to pay attention to what inspires you. What are you attracted to, and move towards that. Figure out how to bring that into your life. And it sounds like you've done that just naturally. The flip side of that, and I'd like your opinion on this, is when there's things in your life that you do not enjoy, that you do not like, maybe you have a responsibility for them, but if you can try to get yourself away from the things that you don't like and surround yourself by the things that really jack you up and build your life around that, you're going to end up a pretty happy person. So talk about the counterpart of that, which is you have to do certain things. I call it flipping your want to have to ratio. If you have to do 99% of your whole life, you're not going to be very happy because it's a grudge. But if you can get to 99% want to and 1% have to, it's like nirvana. So talk about the getting away from and getting through the drudgery of stuff you have to do so you can spend your life on what you want it to be.
Ooh, yeah, that is loaded right there. And it's loaded for myself because, yeah, I've got such this large drive and curiosity for things that's what leads me. And yeah, the times in my life that things haven't had that spark or that exploration, are those kind of dark periods
Hmm.
where things just don't feel right. And I've got to do other things. Um, and that's too why I think health is so important, is because during those times, there's such a tendency to let our health drop as well. And ultimately, health is, for the most part, something we can control. And even if it's just that little factor that we can manipulate and do the things we like to do that make us healthier. And in those times when we're not feeling energized, It's actually what healthy things can we do to recover
Yeah.
and to build things that way. And it- there's all sorts of lazy ways to get healthier
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that we could use during these times where we're feeling sluggish and down and depressed as well. And we need those actually. We need
Yeah.
to sleep. We need to breathe, meditate.
Yeah.
We need to bombard ourselves with the work you're doing in happiness too. That just so we have that perspective
Yeah.
when things aren't going our way. And yeah, and then just being hungry for whatever little opportunities we can find to get back into that zone where yeah, it's that spark and it's something we're purposely driven to do. And
Yeah.
I just love how you put that into great simple terms for people to realize and to to really focus on moving it that direction instead of just
Yeah.
it's what I have to do.
Yeah.
That
It's the key. Hey, before we leave this idea of purpose and choosing the life that you're meant to live, how did, very interestingly, you said rugby took you around the world. How did your work in Japan and Australia have an impact on your life? Are you in, do you live in Canada?
I'm back in Canada, so yeah, that's been the
And you're
other
Canadian?
not linear for me was that yeah, I finished college with a teaching degree and I went to Australia and I substitute taught, did short contracts over there and grades 1 through 12.
Hmm.
And then I loved it. I could have stayed
Hmm.
in Australia.
Oh, I've never been, but always on my bucket list.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
then visa ran out.
Hmm.
And then I came back to Canada briefly and a friend of a friend offered me a job in Japan. And
Hmm.
it was on this tiny little island outside Nagasaki. There's, yeah,
Hmm.
maybe 10 other foreigners on the island. And
Wow.
so it's this fishing farming island, subtropical, and I'm teaching 3-year-olds to senior citizens
Hmm.
and in a different language.
No.
What I don't know and don't speak. And I'm on this island and I'm one of the friends I had there. He uh, he did the Japan Ironman, which happened to be on the island I was living on.
Hmm.
And so I trained a little bit with him. I've never done a long distance event in my life. And yeah, the second year I was there, watched it the first year and then completed it the second year. So my first
That's
triathlon
awesome.
was a full
Wow.
Ironman.
Wow. That's great. And so how did those experiences, as you look back at them, how have they made an impact or have they made an impact on your life?
Oh, at the end of the day, and this is why neurodegenerative disorders, in my opinion, are something we need to pool every single resource imaginable into, is at the end of the day, we're our memories. And
Hmm.
if we lose
Hmm.
our memories, we're losing what we accumulated through our life. And
Yeah.
I find that to be an absolute tragedy that
Hmm.
here I am, mid 40s. I sometimes just move and I have this positive flashback
Yeah.
of of a great experience I had earlier in my life. And and it just out of nowhere can sometimes hit me and it's like the negative of PTSD.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about this as thinking about the brain as a network. And I wrote a blog post about this. I'll try to convey it properly. But there was uh, a measurement called Metcalfe's law that was trying to describe the value of a network. And it was back in the days when the World Wide Web was just coming on, and this is a guy from Stanford, and he said basically that the value of a network is exponentially greater with every new member. So a single fax machine is worthless. It's a paperweight. 2 fax machines, it's more valuable. You can now communicate with somebody. 100 fax machines, exponentially more valuable. 1,000,000, exponentially more valuable. And as I got into happy living, I started thinking about what you said. We are our memories. And I made an analogy that all of our experiences are like a new member joining our network of us. And then you have, because you've been to Australia and you've been to Japan and you play rugby, you might experience something that be very different from me because I've been to Japan, but I was a pole vaulter and I did football, and we have different experiences.
Right.
So you can tap into your network of experiences and see something click and come up with a new thought instantly that's easy for you that I could never ever come up with because I don't have that base of experience. So first of all, do you agree with that? And second of all, how does that work in the brain?
I love that as well. And basically, yeah, growing up, once again, having these learning challenges, it wasn't that I was the smartest person in the room. It was it was often the opposite in some subjects. And it was that interest that got me going.
Mhm.
But with that being said, um, I needed to figure out and understand things. And it was that understanding things. So might not be the smartest person, but I I have more of an ability to understand kind of this network and system of something versus
Mhm.
somebody who can go to a textbook and memorize things and answer the
Mhm.
correct A, B, or C, D answer on the on the form.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've developed skills by understanding things and the whole system. And that's how I can get good test scores now or be
Yeah.
great in a clinic situation is I've had to take that longer approach to become
Yeah.
good with what's the whole
Yeah.
situation. And the more experiences I have or that you have or the listeners have is going to translate into other areas. And
Yeah.
that's how people become polyglots, those amazing people that can all of a sudden learn so
Yeah.
many different fields or languages. And
Yep.
it's
Yep.
figuring out these patterns and the similarities between these patterns and the differences. And when we think of patterns, the brain's just patterns,
Yep.
the pattern of connections. So
Yeah.
it's how do we build those and everything else? And if we just use the same pattern over and over, then yeah, we're good at that one pattern. But if we can make multiple ones and see the differences and
Yeah.
hear the differences between uh, something else, then things are easier to learn.
Yeah.
And I think
And do and
a
create
lot
and
more.
the whole, yeah, the whole shooting match. All right. Thank you for that, David. Now let's take a commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Are you ready to transform your life? At happyliving.com, we've discovered 4 keys to help you live with purpose, joy, and significance. Unlock your truth with the Happy Quiz. Unlock your happy formula with inspiring stories from the Something Significant Show. Unlock your roadmap to happiness with our free ebook, Making Your Mark of Significance. And unlock your inspired life with our life-changing e-course, The Philosophy of You and Your Inspired Life. This is your time to shine. Go to happyliving.com now and click Unlock the Power of You. Unlock your power. Live your best life. happyliving.com.
And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my guest star today is Dr. David Hardy. He's a pioneering brain health expert, educator, and creator of the Hardy Brain Method. David empowers leaders, athletes, and individuals to transform stress and overwhelm into focus, resilience, and peak performance. His expertise in functional neurology and holistic care helps his clients achieve better brain health, unlock hidden potential, and reclaim their vitality. His work inspires a life of clarity, balance, and limitless possibility. David, I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found. It's called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. And it says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway to discovering the reason for being on the planet. It says that the science tells us that giving our time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose, overcoming difficulties, and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So how about you, David? Has giving your time, talents, and treasure been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties that you've faced, for bringing real meaning into your life?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, we all want a paycheck and we want that paycheck to be bigger. But uh, I've never concentrated on numbers, and I'm probably horrible at business that way. Is that I've always just concentrated on what I can provide my my patients, my clients, and just what I can do through content creation that way as well. Um, is
Mm.
I've always subscribed that, yeah, eventually the wealth and stuff comes with that. That initially it's, yeah, that passion, purpose, and it has been that. It's just being about sharing this information and getting it out there and helping patients and clients build their health, and that just excites me, and it's always been there. Like in coaching, why do most people coach? They're not getting a paycheck, is they really like seeing development in other people and seeing
Hmm.
kids grow and become better at something and guiding them that way. And that that's been the whole journey, whether it's been in another country or a different profession or field. It has been all about that guiding and watching others develop and get get what they want.
Coaching is such a blast, and you can see the joy on your face. And I coached just for a couple of years, many years ago. But even still, every once in a while, I'll get a happy birthday from, or I just sent a notice to one of my old players. Well, he's an
Right.
old man, like me, but they still call me coach. And when he calls me coach, it's like, oh, I like that. It feels good. And you
Right.
are expressing that same feeling. What's going on in the brain that makes us feel good by helping others?
Ooh. I could get geeky and I could go into like the whole mirror neuron theory. I could do so
Well, do it in a way that we can
many
understand
different
it
things, but
in 2 minutes.
I would say just simply based, it's a shared energy.
Mm.
That with that shared energy, what you're giving is also being bounced back and forth between people.
Yeah,
And humans, we're social creatures. There's no
yeah,
way we can go without socializing, and that socialization is a happy center in our brain most of the time.
yeah, yeah.
And if it's not,
And
it can be trained.
and I've even read, and so give us just a minute on this. If and we hear it, it's better to give than to receive. But when we give, we feel good. When we get, the receiver feels good. But even somebody observing the act of kindness feels good.
Yes.
So is that just a part of our communal nature that you were describing? Because this person over here didn't give or receive, but she or he still feels better. He says, look what David just did. That's so nice.
Absolutely true. Yeah, our mood is going to be changed by what we observe,
Yeah,
and the environment and the situations we're in are that we put ourselves in.
yeah,
And yeah, it's natural that, yeah, we all go back to that freeze, fight, flight system where something bad happens, and that's what happens. Well, all the other times when we're not under attack is usually connections with other humans that are going to be or could be um, uh, an enriching experience. And it's the reason we watch TV is we want to be put into a certain mood. And just observing others is going to do that.
Okay, so that's great. The science tells us that giving to others brings real meaning to our lives. And the
Yes.
joy that we feel from our fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others, that confirms it. But there's something more to it than just the giving, David. I believe that the real magic of life comes when you're giving from living in your purpose, because it creates a
Mm.
profound joy, not just for those who are receiving, but for the giver too. So, David, the audience and I would like to know how it makes you feel to be happily living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do, and the people all around you have taken notice. So, my friend, sit back, open your heart, and have a listen to what people are saying about the impact you're making on their lives by finding the magic of giving from living in your purpose. One person said, David Hardy is a thoughtful, warm-hearted, and gifted practitioner. Another said, Dave is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to the brain and spinal health. Another said, he's an awesome, lovable bear of a man. Others said, I know him to be passionate, articulate, devoted. He's patient, a great colleague, a good listener, relentless, trustworthy, very skilled, a keen investigator, a thorough researcher, a problem solver, educated, experienced. He stays very current with research in our field, as well as cutting edge continuing education. He's easy to work with, compassionate, an exceptional clinician, highly recommended. He has always answered my questions with depth and simplicity. David is my go-to practitioner in his field. And finally, this person said, in my experience, he was able to provide care with empathy and professionalism. So, David, how's all that incredible love make you feel?
That is amazing. Wow. Yeah. Thank you
And
for
that,
sharing.
yeah, and that expression on your face, folks, that's what this show is all about. It's encouraging you to find that magic in your lives. It's available for each of us. That's what I believe. And it comes from this great big happy circle. Giving your time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And then giving from living in your purpose brings a profound joy to your life and to the lives of those around you too. So it seems giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So if I'm going to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula, David, I've got to tweak it just a tiny bit more. See how this sounds. Power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power, and that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds dead on.
Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with the lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and ask you to tell us what they mean to you, and give us the first thing that pops in your mind, David, because we call this a lightning round.
All right.
This first one I took right off your LinkedIn page, so it comes from you. And you wrote, the brain can be trained and brain improvement is achievable by anyone.
Absolutely.
Okay. This next quote reminds me of the powerful why behind your message to assist people in improving their human health and human potential. And it comes from Friedrich Nietzsche. And he said, quote, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how.
Suffering to purpose.
Okay. And it doesn't need to be just a single word. It can be a thought. So I don't
All
want to
right.
constrain you, but what first comes
Yeah,
to
I
your
didn't want
mind,
to
not
suffering.
the first word.
That was
So,
not Frederick. Yeah,
so
boy.
here's one that speaks to unlocking the untapped potential, something that you work hard to do in your work. And it comes from Marianne Williamson, and she said, quote, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Realization.
This quote makes me think of the neuroplasticity of the brain and your approach to transformation. And it comes from the great Albert Einstein. And he said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them."
The definition of insanity.
Very good. This one reminds me of the line in your show poem that you've mastered the art of easing life's strains. And it's from a lady named Sarah Young, and she said, "Living well is both a discipline and an art."
Make it happen.
Make it happen. And this is our show anchor. It's from Goff. He said, "Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now."
First step.
First step. Very good. Very good. Thank you. And now, folks, it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Dr. David Hardy, please share a little love with our fabulous broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. David, I love your mission in life to assist people in improving their health and human potential. And I admire the passion and precision that you bring to your work using a holistic, scientific, and practical approach. And I'm super happy that you've shared your visionary, kind-hearted, and impactful spirit on our show today. Will you take a moment or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
I would just, I'd like to leave people with that optimism that there are so many ways we can improve our lives, and it's about gaining that extra knowledge and wisdom around it. And I would say if they're listening in right now, is that they're doing a lot of the right things, and just to keep it up.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. All right. Thank you, David. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing and inspiring guest stars like David and reaching folks just like you, ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you to our viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things David Hardy. Find him, friend him, read his blog, listen to his podcast, and join him on an exciting journey to a healthier, happier brain. You'll find all the links in our show notes. And from me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and download our free book. It's called Making Your Mark of Significance. And you can read it in about 30 minutes. And once you've read it, then give some thought about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your life, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome. And this is the Something Significant Show. And we're out.